You also need to demonstrate with signs outside of prisons. It doesn't require many people, 1 or 2 people outside of a prison with a sign or outside of a police station saying, "Stop arresting Polish citizens for cannabis." That's all the sign needs to say. Stop arresting Polish citizens for cannabis. Stop sending Polish citizens to jail for cannabis on the other side. And you hold this sign up and you go outside these prisons. This will begin over time to have a positive effect for our movement. It will become more embarrassing for the state to seek to jail people for cannabis because it is a movement that is going around the world. Cannabis has many benefits. It's not criminogenic. It doesn't produce bad people. We have the public sympathy on our side, and we have media on our side, and we have the times, the era, the zeitgeist, as the Germans might say, on our side. But do not engage the government in ways of how to legalize cannabis or how to regulate it. Stay well away from that because it will divide our movement. You will have some people say, "Oh, I want to be in the commercial legal business," and other people will say, "You are a sellout, you are a traitor." Once you start telling the government on what you will accept, you're going to have a divided movement. You're going to have people arguing with each other. You're going to have fractures in the movement. But no one will disagree with the message of stop jailing cannabis users and stop arresting cannabis users. That has 100% support from all the people in our movement, the cannabis culture, and has a huge support in the public. Everything else will be divisive. It's very important you understand this. Do not advocate for a specific regime. Let the government do whatever stupid things they want in this regard, and we will just keep doing what we do now until they make it amicable between the two people, the cannabis culture and the government. So stop arresting cannabis people. Stop arresting Polish people. Stop jailing us for cannabis. That is your only message, the only one. There is no other message.
This is something I believe that did you change your mind about that? Did you think that before when cannabis wasn't legal in Canada? Because I'd like to refer to what we've been talking about before. You said that we should totally ignore the political parties in order to repeal the prohibition entirely.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
The politicians, we shouldn't advise them even if they're asking. But is this something you changed your mind about and you learned from your after the legalization? Because this is very...
It's different if someone asks. If a politician asks you, but even then, who are they asking? One person, a group, a specific group? Which group are they asking? And why are they asking? If they want to become more knowledgeable or they want to understand the humanity of the cannabis culture and what we seek, which is, complete freedom from punishment. Yes, of course we can talk to a politician, but we do not lobby politicians. Do not go to them and beg them or urge them or try and get meetings. If they come to you, yes, that's excellent. In Mexico, many of the senators went to the activists and asked the activists directly. And that is acceptable. Politicians are free to talk to us, but we will not go and beg them except to stop arresting people. We're not going to be on our knees begging things because it will cause division, because some people will get special treatment and others will not. So what we want to do is tell politicians only that which we are 100% in agreement of. Stop jailing Polish citizens, stop arresting Polish citizens for cannabis. And then if a politician wants to discuss what ideally we would like, or the problems with the prohibition. We always will discuss the problems with the prohibition, the unfairness, the injustice, the expense to citizens, the degradation of people who love plants, the demonization of a plant that is entirely benign and is in fact a fabulous boon to humankind. Yes, we can talk about those things. We're not going to get in a battle with you begging about, oh, we should be able to have 20 grams or 30 grams or 40 grams, because it's all bullshit. We should be able to carry as much cannabis as we can grow and carry and eat and consume and make into medicines. That's what we want. They know that. So we don't discuss with bureaucrats or politicians the terms of a surrender. We just tell them, stop arresting us. And, you can ask us whatever you want.
That's funny. That's interesting. But so next question is, where are you standing on home grow-ups? I mean, I know you want everyone to be able to grow as much as they can, what you just said. But what about the control of it, of the standards of if everyone knows how to grow of the product, if everyone should be able to grow for their own use, or everyone who's growing should be able to openly, just in a perfect vision of cannabis legalization, just openly sell it? And where are we going? Where are we standing in terms of control of the quality?
See, you're already thinking in the wrong way. You're thinking, see, I can tell as a Polish citizen, you've been under authoritarian bureaucratic regimes too long, because that's very much the wrong way to think. Because in Canada, probably 700,000 people grow 4 plants. Do you want bureaucrats visiting 700,000 people and coming and inspecting their homes and giving them rules and regulations for 4 fucking plants? That would be a tremendous increase in...
I'm sorry. Because I'm referring to selling, because I know I know where you're standing. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I know where you're standing on growing for your own use. I know 4 plants, it's basically for you, for your friends, and it doesn't have to be controlled, and that's kind of obvious. That's for you, and it's up to you. But you're saying that basically right now only big companies are allowed to open the dispensaries. You need a special license. So what we want to avoid is getting the whole administrative process, making it simple and making it available to everyone to grow and even to sell. If you know how to grow well, you should be able to sell. But I'm also, as a patient or as a user, worried that the quality of what I'm buying is not controlled. Should those people send what they're growing to lab? Should there be any kind of control when you want to sell it?
No, none whatsoever. And the reason being is, when I had my own shop and I sold 15 kilograms every week, I had my own cannabis tested, and not a single batch of my cannabis was contaminated. Some people tried to put vegetable terpenes in to make it smell better, but I caught them and reprimanded them, and they stopped. But basically, it's buyer beware. You buy from the people who don't sell you bad cannabis, or sorry, you go to who sells the good stuff. In a legal environment, you're not going to buy bad cannabis more than once from anybody, because you will refuse to go there again. The marketplace, in a free market, it deals with all that. Just don't buy bad cannabis. Look at what you're doing. Carry a magnifying glass. You can see mold with a small, tiny magnifying glass. Why? You don't want the government to do your safety protocols for you. Do it yourself. We've been doing it for 30, 40 years. We have lots of skills. We know good cannabis from bad cannabis, and people won't buy bad cannabis in a free society. There'll be too much good cannabis. So you don't need that kind of control to tell people that, oh, this is safe. It's going to be safe. Why would you buy it from someone selling you unsafe cannabis? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, right now that's what's happening here because of the prohibition. For example, we have CBD flowers that are very popular these days, and cannabis that right now on the black market. That's another story for people that actually are using those. See, I'm not sure.
That's bullshit. That's an excuse. That CBD is being used to delay the legalization of THC.
That's not but that's not what I wanted to say. I mean, what's happening right now on the black market, people are using this kind of chemicals that are making you high. They're putting them on CBD flowers, and they're selling them as regular marijuana that contain like is THC. You can grow a very nice looking buds of CBD flowers. You can add some chemicals to make people feel what you're smoking. So that's what's happening right now. That's why we need a legalization so much here, because of what's happening.
No. Hold on a sec.
That's one of the reasons, of course. But
well, yeah, but no, stop. Why would anyone buy this cannabis that has been contaminated? Are they buying from strangers? I don't understand. Don't people buy from people they trust? Why would you buy contaminated cannabis from a stranger? I don't understand.
Well, okay, so if you are an adult person, you basically know where to go. You don't know what to do if you want to get cannabis right now here. If you are a young person, if you're a teenager, or underage, you can just call your dealer, you can call your friends. It's much easier to get cannabis for kids than for their parents these days here. because you don't really know where to call. There's not so many people that are advertising that are doing that. You're going to jail. People are keeping that really, really low level.
See, well, then your problem is, as an activist, you've failed, because you should be encouraging and making people grow a lot of pot. Your number one job is not to legalize cannabis, but to enrich the cannabis culture, meaning you have to grow much more cannabis, because you have this problem because you have a shortage of cannabis. So the number one job, regardless of whether you legalize or not, you might not legalize for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, I think sooner, but you need to produce a lot more cannabis in the short term, and that's what your advocacy should be. Grow more pot. Let's all grow more pot. It must be valuable. It must be worth money. There must be a big demand for it. And I noticed there's a shortage of cannabis in France, Germany, Poland. People are too frightened of going to jail and getting arrested, and this is why you have a shortage. You need to get more courage and be braver. And okay, so I agree you can't just produce heroes in a vacuum, but your problems will this business that people are committing fraud and selling contaminated cannabis to could never happen in Canada, because nobody buys cannabis from strangers. There's thousands of different people, black market, free market, legal market, medical, and because everybody's growing. We already broke all the laws. People went to jail, hundreds of thousands of people a year, and then 80,000. And now we don't go to jail so much because we already went to jail. And so that's how the process happens. You need more people to grow more pot and tell the government, I don't give a fuck. You can come and arrest me, or you put me in jail, I don't care. I mean, I spent 6 years in jail. You'll get over it. I mean,
well,
are the men pussies? Come on, this is the question.
That's a great thing to say, but I'm learning a lot from what you're saying.
Because our number one thing is to look out for our culture. We don't give a fuck about the government, about politics, about anything. We are looking out for our culture, and we need money. So we need to grow more pot. We need to not, even if you go to jail for 6 months or a year, you're probably not going to go longer than that. I went to jail for seeds for 5 years. I've been in jail 3 months for passing one joint. So you just need people to say, hey, I don't care if I go to jail.
It's 3 to even 8 years in prison for cannabis plants.
So are you telling me that you have thousands of people in jail? Well,
hundreds, thousands for sure. But we had thousands of people. We had in the past year thousands of people in jail for cannabis. But those people usually are for a position of very small quantities for their own use. There is a little bit of growers, of people that cut for growing, but there is a small percentage of those people. They don't. If they get caught, usually it's a big one. If they cut, people don't really risk having a few plants, because in Poland we have one law for production of narcotics. So it doesn't really matter if the same article of the bill that is not allowing. Not allowing production of narcotics. So basically, having a factory of amphetamine and having one cannabis plant, it's up to court what it decides, but it's still production of narcotics.
Well, then that's what you have to do. You have to politically try to get that repealed. That's your only job, is to repeal that. Not to, in the absence, they might legalize it, but you just need to have them stop putting people in jail and arresting people. This is the big crisis in Poland. But why is it like this in the year 2021, when you're surrounded by jurisdictions that have much better regimes? Although I will tell you, it's gotten worse in Spain and Slovenia, and Europe is going in a bit backwards way as far as cannabis, because still France, Germany, Poland, Russia, the biggest countries in Europe, are still very prohibitionist. So it makes me wonder what happened to the activism in those areas. Why are the politicians not responsive? Who benefits by putting people in jail for cannabis for 3 to 8 years? I don't understand how the public has learned to accept that.
Well, basically, the whole generation was under huge propaganda. If we are talking to elderly, they basically remember that hemp is not the same thing that cannabis. So it's a little easier to talk to the eldest generation, but the middle one, from between me and the elderly, It's the generation that were under huge propaganda. I don't really blame them anymore for really believing in everything that they were told, that you're going to die if you smoke cannabis, that is going to make you addicted to hard drugs, and you're just going to die. That was the main message that was passed here.
Now, okay, but here's what I have to ask. As a rule, we often have rallies with 50,000 people, the 420s, and everybody's smoking pot, but at the end of the day, everyone goes home and there's no damage and there's no riots and there's no negativity.
Exactly.
I'm wondering, I have to put, but here's the problem is, why do people have this impression in Poland in the year 2021 that cannabis people had people? There's no evidence of it. You never see it. Alcohol and throwing up and being terrible and robbing banks and hitting people every day, all day, right? And so how did this negative image of Polish citizens who use cannabis being bad people circulate when there is no evidence? You're not committing crimes. We don't do bad things. So how is this not impacted on Polish citizens that cannabis people are peaceful and productive and good people?
That's a good question. It's not like I know the answer. It's not that there is an answer. I think that's what we are trying to get. You mentioned some that even that what's happening in the media, the TV has lost their influence. The Facebook and the biggest social media are blocking what we are basically talking about. There's a lot of Polish people that were trying to educate the public, the general public, and they just got blocked. Their channels got deleted multiple times. So this is what the education is basically getting blocked somehow. Sorry?
You need to pick up your activism. And the most effective way is to picket city halls, police stations, and prisons with signs that say, stop jailing Polish citizens for cannabis. Just that's it. Stop jailing and stop arresting. Because you're going to need to, that is also risk-free. The thing about growing cannabis is there's a great risk for it. Selling cannabis is risky. There's a lot of risk involving the plant itself. But there's not much risk just standing in front of a prison for 3 to 5 hours with a sign that says stop arresting people. And if you do it in multiple cities on the same day, people will begin to notice there's a trend. People will put it on Facebook. People will put it on social media. Maybe somebody will talk about it on the radio. You've got to organize a consistent, regular protest that has a single message. Stop arresting Polish citizens for cannabis. Stop arresting the cannabis in Poland. And it needs to happen in Wrocław, Warsaw, and all the other major cities. And people will begin to sense some energy and will attract more people. And that's all you can really do. And then you go from there. Hopefully politicians will ask to speak to representatives. And they have to be really good representatives, because we don't really want to tell Polish politicians how to make their rules and regulations. They have hundreds of people. We need to tell them that it's completely unjust, it's unfair, it's unproductive, it demonizes. In 2021, you shouldn't be able to issue hate propaganda against a certain segment of the population. And the cannabis culture is a segment of the Polish population that's being demonized. And therefore, this is hate speech directed at us. And it's totally unacceptable in this period of time. And so in conversations with politicians or even citizens, we have to point out that until we show we are bad people, we should be given the same benefit of the doubt as every other citizen, that we are good people until we show otherwise. And, that's the campaign that in Poland should be going on. Stop arresting us. Everything else to the politicians. And if they ask, tell them whatever you think is useful. But you have a serious crisis, because there are very, very few jurisdictions in the world that are putting people in prison for 3 to 8 years for cannabis anymore. I mean, they can put you in jail for up to 14 years in cannabis, but nobody's in jail for more than 3 or 4 or 5 months or a year tops. And it's happening much less, but bad laws still exist. In Poland, these bad laws are being enforced. So the message is, stop enforcing bad laws. Because they may not change them, but you want them to stop enforcing them. Stop arresting us. So that's a message for the police, for city councils, for provincial councils, for the federal government, for all the bureaucrats. Stop arresting us. And, you know, and then see how you do after 3 months of a coordinated. If you had 20 people in 20 cities in Poland, people would begin to notice that, holding signs up at major places where we are arrested or jailed or police stations.
That's a really good idea. I think a lot of people are listening to us and agreeing with what you're saying. That's a good point of direction of where we should be going. I'd like to talk. Okay. Sorry, you said something.
Very efficient. It's important. And also, social media is exaggerated. So the importance of social media is exaggerated. Meeting people actually on the street and having one-on-one conversations, even in the time of COVID, people really appreciate that because it's not happening. We're all starved for interaction and communication. So someone holding a sign in a police station or a city hall or a prison saying, "Stop arresting us." This happen.
That's a very good point. I'd like to, that's actually very much to happen because we are going to collect this 100,000 signatures for what we talked about before. And I talked about it with my guests on Thursday, last Thursday, we mentioned how we are going to collect those signatures. One more topic I'd like to touch. Oh, okay. So yeah, we basically reached that time I can't really hear you. Can you say that again?
The campaigns that require few people and are low risk are very advisable. A petition is good, and if it requires the parliament in Warsaw to vote on it, that's very useful to see who will support you. Because you will find out who your allies are in that vote, and you will probably find you do not have many allies. So you have to think that is probably the only time you will do that petition. And the reason is this: a lot of energy has gone into getting 100,000 signatures, I'm sure. A lot of energy. Think how much you might achieve if the same amount of energy went into just having 50 people hold a sign every Saturday in front of City Hall that said, "Stop arresting us, the citizens of Poland who smoke cannabis or use cannabis or need cannabis," or whatever. You know, some sign that says, "Stop arresting us," in 50 cities in Poland in front of a City Hall. You would probably have 250,000 people see you every Saturday. 250,000 people getting that message every Saturday on a nice day, requiring no work, really, no risk, no arrests, no nothing. But you'll have conversations. And if you could get 2 people, because it's nice to have someone, a friend beside you. It also prevents people from ganging up on you if you have 2 people. A man and a woman would be ideal, one of each sex, at each place holding one of these signs and just standing peacefully, because we want to show people we are peaceful people. We are reasonable people. We are people that you should be glad to have as friends, neighbors, and co-workers. We are not a threat to people. So please stop arresting us. We are your neighbors.